You can push us live. All right. I think we're live, guys. Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. We're here live with Viktor. I'm so excited to be talking to Viktor today. Viktor has a phenomenal story. Viktor is a real estate investor, guys. He buys property, he fixes them up, he sells them, and on top of that, he built a whole coaching program around this. He's now capable of teaching and impacting so many lives and duplicating his process. And I'm so excited to talk to Viktor today about his journey and how he got to the real estate space. So Viktor, it's my pleasure to have you on the show here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. How's your morning going so far?
It's good. So I live in Gainesville, Florida. So I'm in Florida. I used to live all over, but I really like Florida because always the same climate and same weather. So like I get up and it's warm. I go to bed, it's warm. So just the fantastic, I love living here. So morning was good, and I'm excited to be on your show.
Beautiful. Yeah, and you say the morning. So in the show, we always talk a lot about mindset, about morning rituals. We kind of touched on that already a little bit, but can you let us know, what are your morning rituals? What are the secrets that brings the best out of Viktor every single day?
Yeah, no, good question. So I think as an overarching principle, like it really makes sense to focus on the morning and really get that dialed in and nailed in so you can perform really well throughout the day. And what I've seen, like if I roll out of bed late, and I'm like late to a meeting or I'm late to something like that, spans the entire day. It's not just like the morning. Like I have that baseline set of emotions the entire day. So in terms of like specifics, so I usually get up like 6 a.m. and one of the first things I do, I go to the gym. So that's the first thing. I found before, like I like to get the gym done first. So before, when I was going to the gym, I'd do it in the afternoon or evening, but I'd always put it off, or I'd never get around to it, or it'd always be one of those things where, oh, I'm just too tired, I'll take care of it yesterday, and then I'd never go to the gym. So that's why I like to knock it out first. So 6 a.m., get up, maybe a quick snack, go to the gym. I come back. The routine after that's pretty standard, where I meditate 10 minutes, nothing crazy. I do a bit of journaling. I always plan out my day ahead of time. That's the other thing. So I have like, this is then, this is here, this is now, meetings, anything I need to do, I just break it out in terms of when to do it, how to do it. It's just on one piece of paper, so I can just glance at it, like the agenda for the day. Then I wrap all that up and eat breakfast, and usually around 8 a.m., give or take, I'm usually ready to go and starting to work.
That's amazing. Hey, Viktor, what does journaling, what does it do for you? You talked about planning out your day, right? And many of us here, we're into high performance. We're always like entrepreneurs. We're always looking for the next best thing. Like besides the business, we're always trying to perform better, to have more energy, to be more focused. So how does journaling and maybe even meditation, how does it help you in planning out your day to stay focused on what you do?
Yeah, so at least for the meditation, it just like calms me down. It's like it's a reset. It's like a nice reset. So heaven forbid I'm mad or I'm sad or something else is going on. Like it's a good, okay, back to basics. Okay, back to center, if you want to call it that. So getting it back to like a nice neutral level in terms of everything, just so you can start to grow from there. So that's in terms of meditation. For the journaling, I just have the sheet, and it's pretty straightforward. It's like, what are you grateful for? Because I think it's good to bring up that emotion in terms of like being grateful for something, like getting in that mind space. It's so easy to focus on like the bad things that are going on. It's also important to focus on the good things.
Absolutely.
Because I've seen that for my life. Like there's 99% positive and I'm doing great and I'm growing, but there's that 1% and I just focus on that 1% that's negative. So that's key. So there's a section for journaling. There's a section for like what I did right during the day, what I did wrong during the day in terms of improvement, and then like what are the top things for the day. So it just breaks out the day. I remember I used to be in the headspace where it was, I had 20 things to do for the day, and if I didn't get all of them done, if I only got 19 done, then I was upset, And just doing the journal like breaks it down really easily. Like, what are the biggest things for the day? What are you grateful for? Because if you're putting in a lot of work, you should be winning most of the time. So you can't be forgetting those wins. So it just helps you bring back and focus on what's working in terms of the journaling.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that you said if you're in the game and you're doing a lot of work, you should be winning, right? That is per definition true, guys. If you're taking massive action, right, you should be winning. But the question is, are you focusing on the right actions?
Right.
So I find it beautiful, Victor, that you plan your day ahead and you evaluate, right? You reflect. It's not just you're going on with maybe your mundane routines, but you actually reflect what went well, where can you adjust, and how can I be better this week? So how does it make you feel? Like you're saying you get started, ready to go around 8-ish. So how does that make you feel every day? Because to me, you seem like a very energetic and positive spirited guy, right? Good smile on your face. So how does that make you feel every day?
Well, it just sets me up properly. And I like what you said earlier, like, yeah, it's good reflection. Because it's good to like improve. Like they say, if you improve 1% every day, like you'll be astonished as to how far you've made it within a year. Or they always say, here's the flip side of that one. Like if you don't reflect on yourself a year ago and feel dumb, then you haven't learned anything. So I like that one too. And I can relate to that. I can even think back, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, I was like, oh, what was I doing? That was so dumb, because I've improved since then. But in terms of like the emotional state, so it really like sets me up and I'm ready for the day. It's hard to explain, but like if things go wrong or if things happen or if there's emergencies, which are rare, like I'm ready for the day and ready to get started. So it just puts me like on a good foundation is the best way I'd put it.
Beautiful. Hey, Victor, and right now I know that we have a lot of audiences anticipated to today's interview, because now I want to dive into what you actually do, right? We talked about your routines and the processes, but today we're here to talk about real estate, right? It's personally one of my favorite topics. And I know you have been doing this for a long time. When I got to meet you at the beginning, you told me that this was kind of instilled inside you from a very early age. But just can you give us a quick breakdown before we get into what you do? What does real estate mean to you?
What does real estate mean to me? Real estate's a really good vehicle, like for achieving dreams. Like if you're working full time, or if you have a full time business, or you do real estate full time, it's still a great vehicle to really achieve your dreams. So if you want to invest in real estate, like you can build passive income, and that can help you in terms of just like letting you go and getting financial freedom. But it's really like a ways to a means is how I see it.
A ways to a means, okay. And so now let's go back a little bit to your background story, because I know that you aren't by yourself, right? You're not just an entrepreneur that just got and happened to be in the real estate space where you got interested in a property. I mean, I think you're all backed by a family that started this and is still the real estate and the potential that it has. So can you talk to us about that, about your family and the early days of Victor, where that seed was planted?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I started real estate when I was much younger. So I started when I was 14, and it was a family business, and my family had bought some properties and they were really beat up. So the plan was to fix up those properties. So again, I was 14 at the time, so I helped out as much as I could. So it was like hammering nails, like ripping out flooring, like carrying things in and out of the place. So really basic stuff. And back then I didn't really get paid. If I did get paid, it was I would work for the entire weekend, Friday to Sunday, and I'd get like a $20 bill. I was excited because I was 14. I was like, oh my God, this is great, $20. So that's how I started in terms of the real estate, and that was family. So I got to learn there. I learned a lot of like the renovation stuff. So not a lot of the stuff that I do today. So it was a different skill set. But then over time, it was always a family thing, and I wanted to do something else. I wanted to do my own thing. So, high school, went to college. I was always entrepreneurial, so I was always trying to start other businesses. So I did home services, I did a wood flooring business, I did an online business, I did a ton of stuff, and nothing ever clicked. like never like really enjoyed it. So I went back and forth, eventually went into healthcare and still didn't like it. I was always in the mindset, at least back then, where it was always like, okay, what's the next thing? Like, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to either exit or I'm going to build it up and, give it to someone. Or it was always like, I'm doing this, but it's just temporary. And then there's going to be a next thing. And then I started dabbling back into real estate, and I just no longer have that mindset anymore. So it's a good place to be in. It's no longer like, oh, what's the next thing after real estate? No, it's this. This is it. I just want to do more, do bigger deals, do better deals. So it's, that's where I'm coming from now.
It sounds to me that you started real estate even without being, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded to me like you were just like morphed into this because your family was doing real estate at the time, and that's how you started. But then you had to venture off by yourself to kind of explore life a little bit more, like to kind of touch on some different industries just to discover your true passion. But ultimately, years down the road, it led you back to the beginning.
No, that's spot on. Yeah. So let me back to the beginning. I'm very happy with where I'm at now. It's going really well. So now what I do, I flip houses full time, flipping houses for folks who aren't familiar, just buying up a house, fixing it up, selling it, just like HGTV, just like what they show on the TV shows.
Yeah.
It's basically like that. And that's what I do full time. And I flip, I'm on track for about 20 flips this year. I want to do 50 next year. So slowly scaling up, just doing more and more. And then what I've started doing recently is started teaching people how to get started in real estate, like how to get their first flip, how to get 6 figures in flipping, because that's the journey that I went through in terms of like trial and error. But I save people that trial and error.
Yeah. Hey, and Victor, without being sidetracked, but we have questions from the audience. So what I would want to propose is that as they come in, I want to give them an opportunity I'm going to present them to you. We can talk about that briefly, but I don't want to sidetrack too much. But the first question here today is, what is your definition of greatness? And how would you define success?
Ooh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, we're going very deep right off the bat.
I really enjoy the book Good to Great by Jim Collins. Like, I've read it at least a dozen times, maybe 15 times. And I would define like greatness as 3 separate things. So he talks about it. So one, it's passion. Like, you really enjoy doing it and you can see yourself doing it for a long time. The second is like unit economics, where like it makes sense financially what you're doing. Like, let's say you're selling lemonade, like you're making money selling lemonade so you can sell more lemonade.
Yes.
It's not where like you sell lemonade and you're losing money so you can't do it for much longer. So that's the second thing, like unit economics. And then the third thing is best in the industry. Like, if you're the top of your game, fantastic at what you do. So that's how I'd say greatness is those 3 things. 1, 2, 3. That's his definition. So like going, and he talks about in the book, highly recommended, by the way, in terms of that book. So going from good to great, like how do you get to that level?
Yeah.
So that's the definition of greatness for me. And then definition of success, I think with both of those questions, it's very personal. Like, it's hard to say to someone else like they're a success or they're not a success, because it's different. And when I was younger, I always thought like success is like hitting 1 million or hitting 1 billion or like some sort of financial metric or some sort of number. And then I've realized over time, well, not everyone wants to hit those metrics. Like, some people are happy in life if they're making 6 figures and they have time to spend with family, or if they're, if they hit 1 billion and then they can retire forever. And that's what I've seen over time. So success is just a personal definition. Like, you've set a goal and a milestone, and like what's the ultimate milestone? Like, if you hit that goal, then you'd be happy forever. Like, you'd be like, this is fantastic. I didn't know I could ever do this. This is better than I ever dreamed of. It's like hitting that goal and just like making sure to write it down, because goalposts can move. So that's the other thing with that.
Beautiful.
So that's how I define success, just like a personal definition, but beyond your wildest dreams in terms of hitting your goals.
Yeah, I think that's very well said, because I agree. You cannot pin one definition of success and apply that to everybody. I think everybody's mission is to define what does success mean to you. And even if you don't have it today, if you're not clear on what success means to you, because maybe you're not in the right vehicle, or maybe you're building on in your journey towards success, you can still discover that along the way. So success will come. And guys, we're going to keep moving on, but I keep the questions coming. We're going to be addressing them each one, but I don't want to deviate too much. So with that said, Viktor, I know that you're still very involved in your process, right? When you do real estate and when you're teaching other people, you're very involved in that whole, the buying process, the repairs, and the flips. Could you talk about those 3 stages of the real estate game?
Yeah, no, for sure. So there's 3 stages. So buy it, fix it, sell it. And as they always say, and it took me a while to internalize it, you make your money when you buy. So you make your money when you buy when it comes to real estate. So you really got to focus on that buy. So I'd rather you do it fantastic and buy a great property for a great price than, really focus on those other 2. So you make money when you buy. In regards to buying, as a principle, it's best to go off the beaten path as much as possible, where if you're going where everyone else is going, there's going to be a ton of competition, the price is going to go up, and it's not going to make as much sense economically. But if you're going off the beaten path and there's less competition, like, you're going to do a lot better. So there's a lot of ways to get into that. I'm happy to dive deep into that, but so that's buying. So
Okay.
make money when you buy.
Yeah.
Then fixing, if you're doing a flip, so people nowadays, when they're buying, like a retail buyer, and they're going to put a mortgage on the place and move their family into the house, they want it move-in ready, and they want it tip-top shape. So they don't want to go in there and like, oh, I have to paint the wall, or I have to do this piece of flooring, or I have to mess around with the electrical. They just want to move in and be totally done, turnkey. So that's part of the renovation process. Like, you're taking it from where it is to that level. So you're taking it to that level, and that can be a new roof, that can be flooring, that can be a new kitchen, new paint, AC, yeah, whatever's needed to take it to that level. But those folks moving in, they don't want to touch anything, and I think you can relate to that, or other people in the audience can relate to that. So that's step 2, that's fixing. And step 3 is selling. As you put it on the market, we're in a seller's market nationwide right now. So the biggest thing with selling, so you're not trying to sell to everyone. You just need to find one buyer. You just need to sell to one person. So part of that is, don't get your feelings hurt if someone doesn't like it, or they think it's too much, or they don't like the neighborhood. Like, for one person, it's going to be the perfect house.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing with selling. So just realizing it's a numbers game and not focusing too much on that.
Right. Yeah. You have to find the right audience for the right properties, what you're saying, right? It's not for everybody, and that's why it's a numbers game until that right person steps up and say, this is the one for me.
Exactly. So I've dealt with a lot of different properties. Like, one of the properties, the smallest property I sold was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, about 750 square foot. So a very small house, like a tiny house. And we nicknamed it Tiny House, actually, T-I-N-Y, Tiny House.
Yeah.
And we eventually found the right buyer for it. It was just a family starting out, and they didn't need much. They were happy. It was a great starter home, but we eventually found that right person for it. So it was no hard feelings. Then I've done like a flood zone property. So it was in a flood zone. Yeah. And for the right person, it just made sense. They weren't worried about the flood zone. They weren't worried about it. They would just pay a little extra in terms of insurance and call it good. Some people, it was a turnoff. They're like, I don't want to live there. What if it gets flooded? I don't want to deal with that. And some people were fine with it. So it's part of that selling process where it's not a hard sell, where it's like, you have to buy his house, please, how can I make this work? Yeah. It's like, it's just trying to find the right person, trying to find a good fit there.
Beautiful. So we're getting a lot of questions from the audience right now. We have Nelson Puelo, a good friend of mine. I see here on the show, also a real estate investor, actually doing the same thing. So he's asking you, Viktor. He said, Viktor, how do you evaluate a good deal?
Oh, good question. I get asked this all the time, by the way. So you're on the right track. Nelson's on the right track. So I look principally at the numbers. There's so many aspects to a property. It's easy to get emotionally tied into a place or fall in love with the house, and you're like, I have to buy it, I have to buy it. Or you're like, oh, it's in a great neighborhood, or oh, it's a it's a great design, it's a great layout. So to get away from that, I just like to look at the numbers. So a good property follows the formula, and this is like a nationwide formula: 70% ARV minus repairs. And ARV stands for after repaired value. So that's the final price you can eventually sell it for. So once it's in the repaired condition, once it's all done, like what price can it command on the market? So 70% ARV minus repairs. So as an easy example, let's say ARV is 100,000. So it's 100,000 once you sell it, final price once it's all fixed up. Let's say repairs are 10,000. So it'll be 100 times 0.7 minus 10. So that gives you 60. That gives you 60,000. So anything below 60,000 is a good deal. Like if you can buy that house for 10 grand, that's home run. That's fantastic. Give me a call. Yeah, I'll buy that one from you.
Would you say then your maximum allowable offer would be the 60 grand in that example?
That's correct. Yes, that's the formula. So MAO, maximum allowable offer, equals 70% ARV minus repairs. And what's good about that formula, so like the neighborhood, the type of property, everything is baked into that formula, so you don't have to get emotionally attached to it. Like, do the numbers work or do they not? It's pretty binary, so you don't get tied into it. I've coached and I've talked to a lot of people, and they find one property and like, I love it, I'm going to get it, and then like the numbers don't work, and then maybe they push it and they do buy it and it doesn't go well, or they just have a lot of emotional distress because it isn't a good fit. It's not going to be a profitable deal. So if you can break it down logically and just detach, but that's the formula I use.
Beautiful. Guys, I think you want to take note of this, write this down. I have heard this personally in our own journeys. Never get attached to your property. Like Viktor clearly explained that if the numbers don't work, then it's not a good deal, right? Just because you like it, it's in a great neighborhood, or you adore the property, it's not going to make this a good deal. So the difference between real estate investing and just buying a property is look at the numbers, right? Don't get emotionally attached. Beautiful.
Exactly.
And we got a really great question coming in from a Facebook user. Guys, make sure that if you tune in that you give StreamYard your permission so we can see your name. But I want to address this question. Many people, Viktor, they always say, maybe you've heard this before, but they got their real estate journey started when they picked up the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Have you heard that before?
I have, yeah. I read that book, must have been like 6-8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I really like the idea of it. Like it's a great book, and it describes all the overlay and like the high level stuff at a 30,000 foot view.
Yeah.
In terms of some of the specifics, tactics, like how you get started, how to talk to people, how to negotiate, that's missing, and that's totally fine. But as a high level, that Rich Dad Poor Dad is fantastic. Just to start thinking in terms of an owner, business owner, entrepreneur, investor. So like it's a great book to get started in terms of like thinking in the right frame of mind.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So the actual question is Robert Kiyosaki's approach to OPM, and OPM is other people's money, is it still relevant in 2020 to get started?
So I don't know what he teaches specifically. Like, I don't know how he structures it specifically in terms of his deals, but in terms of other people's money, yeah, for sure. So it's definitely possible. I've done a ton of flips where I'm zero of my own money into it, and then I split the profit, or I'm zero of my own money into it and I find some creative solution. So it's still possible. Like I'm doing those deals to this day. I do a lot of those. So it's still possible, especially for folks getting started. They might not have the capital to get started. You might not have the down payment, 10, 20, let's say 50 grand to get started. And that's totally fine. You can slowly like build that up and be creative and form partnerships and work through it that way. Like my first deal here in Gainesville was two years ago, and it was a similar thing. So I found a property. It was a great deal. I found a partner, fix it up, help sell it. Just the three steps: buy it, fix it, sell it, and went through the process. They put up all the money. I was no money into it. And we sold it. We netted about 28,000. So we made about 28,000 net profit. So after all expenses, but before taxes.
Yeah.
And then for my cut, because I didn't put in any money, the other person was at risk. I got a third. So I made about $9,000 on that deal. So for most people, and probably most people listening, I don't know if they'd turn down $9,000 if it was handed to them.
Right. Right. Hey, and let's talk about that a little bit. I want to dive in OPM, right? Because that's a topic I think a lot of people have heard about before. It's a very, very popular term, especially if you go on YouTube and you just Google the real estate space, OPM. But what would you say, Victor? And you, I think you are a phenomenal example. You actually did your first deal using OPM. Right. So what is the exact strategy and how do you get in touch or how do you get connected with people that you can actually facilitate a deal like that? How do you use other people's money? Like off the bat, how you get started? What would you say to the audiences that are looking to do their first deal?
Yeah. So in terms of let's talk about how to source those types of people. So what's good is like friends and family, your network, colleagues, and then local real estate investment groups. So there's a couple in Gainesville. RIAs is what they're called, REIA, or meetups. So just to tap into your network. And then part of it is to talk about what you're doing. So if you share your story and share what you're working on, you'll inherently get people interested. So they'll be like, oh, I'd like to invest in real estate. How do I get started? Or can we work together? So that's the thing there. I think the other mindset shift is when you have a good deal in terms of real estate, like you're providing someone an opportunity. It's not just, oh, I want your money. You're doing me a favor. It's like I'm doing you a favor, and I'm doing both of us a favor. And when this goes right, then everyone's going to win. So it's that opportunity shift. Because I know for people starting out, when they borrow money or get money lent to them, it feels like there's a status delta, like you're asking them for money, but it's actually more equal. Like you're helping each other out, so everyone wins. So that's the specifics there in terms of sourcing. Yeah, use your network, family, friends, RIA groups, meetups. You'll be surprised. Like you'll be really surprised. I had a student. I signed up with her, or she signed up with me. Excuse me. And like within less than a week, like she already had all the money she could ever want. Because she was just talking to people, and within her network, inherently, she already had people who were like, oh, I want to do real estate. I want to get started. I want to get invested. But maybe I can't find a deal, or maybe there's something going on where they want to partner or work with you.
So Victor, do you agree that it's part of that OPM, right? It's believing in yourself that you have the ability to really do the work and to add tremendous value. Because the question would always be, why would other people lend me money? And I think that comes down to belief that you can pull it off. Would you
Exactly.
agree?
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So it's belief. It's belief, especially in the early stages. Like you're just selling belief in yourself. In terms of like, hey, I might have a deal in the future. Do you want to partner? They're really looking at you. And the other piece of this is just to understand it from the other person's perspective, just understanding where they're coming from, and putting yourself in their shoes. So with a lot of people nowadays, like they have money saved up in the bank, or they have money available for investing, but they might not be doing anything with it. Like stock market.
Yeah.
Stock market is a stock market. It's kind of volatile right now. Well, it's very volatile. So maybe people aren't that excited to have their money there.
Yeah.
Or maybe they have cash in the bank, but banks don't pay that much interest. It's less than 1%, 1% if you're lucky, which is nothing. So a lot of people have money just sitting there and they want to do something with it. And it's exciting if they can help you out, if you're a friend, and they can help you out and they can earn a great return at the same time. So it's exciting to get involved with that sort of thing.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, and I have one more question that just came in, and that relates back to success habits and self-development. Right, we're talking a lot about real estate, but we touched a little bit on belief. So the question is, where did you learn the success habits, right, that we touched on early on when we started this interview? Where did you learn the success habits, and who inspired you to always be working on your self-improvement?
I think it was a lot of people. I wish I could say it's just one person, but it was a lot of people, like a lot of books, a lot of like YouTube videos, a lot of different folks, a lot of different mentors too. And then what I would do, so I get all these tidbits. I get all these things in terms of like, oh, you should meditate. Oh, you should read books. Oh, you should journal. You should do this, do this, do this. And then I would just try it out on myself in terms of like what I enjoyed, what I didn't enjoy, and what I saw in terms of an effect, like a cause effect. Like I did something, I did meditation, for example, and I would feel better. So I'm like, okay, I'll start doing meditation, make it a habit. So it's that sort of thing. So it's a lot of mentors, a lot of books. It wasn't one source, fortunately or unfortunately.
So would you say you're very experimental? You're always open to try something different?
Yeah. That's what I recommend folks to do as well. Like as the old saying goes, like if you keep doing the definition of insanity, that's what it is. Like you're doing the same thing, expecting different results.
Yeah.
So I like that experimental scientist or almost engineer mindset. We're like trying different things, like seeing A to B, what changes, and you can just practice on yourself. And I've seen a lot of good results from that.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I, in my work as a high performance coach, this is what it is all the time, right? You have a certain principle or like a framework, and after a certain period of time, sometimes you plateau, right? You reach that max potential. So you have to try something different to break those plateaus and just keep growing. So being experimental, being curious about, different things and different methods, I think that's a very good mindset to adopt, because it allows you to always be curious and always try something and apply it, see if that works for you. And I think that's how we move forward, right?
I think it's the best way to look at it. Yeah, just see what works for you, because it's not global. Not everything works for everybody. Like I talk to people, and sometimes they really enjoy meditation, as an example, and some people say, hey, I just can't, I don't get it, it doesn't work for me. So you just figure out what works and stick to it once you see that result.
Absolutely. So Victor, right now let's dive in. You explain us about your first deal, right? At the how old were you again? Your first deal?
I must have been 24.
24.
Is that right?
Your first deal, where you took home, because of using other people's money, you took home $9,000 on that deal. It's pretty sweet. So then, can you walk us through your journey, right? You started off with your one deal. What happened in year 2? What happened in year 3? And where's your mindset and your goals currently at? What are you hoping to achieve in 2020?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I did 2 deals my first year, 8 deals last year. I'm on track for 20 this year. And again, I want to do 50 next year. So in terms of mindset, and I've tried a lot of stuff, so I really want to focus on flips, because I really like the elegance of a flip. So you're in, you're out, you get a big check, and then you're on to the next property. Like you don't have to deal with that property anymore. Like the new homeowners deal with it. There's no like maintenance, or there's nothing to deal with. So I really like the elegance, and I like the before and after transformation. So you buy a property, it's kind of not as nice, and then you fix it up and it's fantastic, best in the block. So going through that transformation, I really like. So me moving forward in mindset, I just want to do flips. 2 things I'm going to be focusing on is doing flips and teaching people how to do flips. That's it. Anything else is superfluous. So,
and I love that you're teaching people, because I also, as a coach, the best way to retain the actual information is to reinforce that, is to teach it to other people, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever you're experimenting with, and whatever you can template into a process, the best way to retain that information is to constantly be sharing and teaching with others, right? So you're almost practically field testing until you get it perfect in terms of when you can duplicate that process. Now, I'm super curious, Victor. You went from quite a leap, from 1 deal to 2, but from 2 to 8, from 8 to on track to doing 20, from 20 to 50. That's quite a leap. Where do you assign that success to? What was the biggest single difference? What was your lever that caused from 2 deals to 8 the next year? What was that difference? And then again, what is the difference between the 8 to 20 this year?
Yeah, so I don't know if it was just one thing. I don't think it was an aha moment. like to bring it back to Good to Great, the Jim Collins book I mentioned earlier. So he mentions a flywheel, and a flywheel is basically like, if you know a playground and a merry-go-round, like the metal merry-go-rounds, like you push it,
Yeah.
and like the first revolution is the toughest. The first revolution is the toughest. You got to push it because it's going on a standstill, and then it starts to get momentum. So you push it, but it's easier to get that next revolution. And at a certain point, like you keep pushing it, and you can let go, and it'll keep going on its own. So that's how I attribute it for me, where it wasn't just one event where I was like, oh, cool, let's do 20. It was more like deal after deal, flip after flip. It was like we're learning, we're doing better, we're getting better profits, we're making more. It's selling quicker. Like we were just getting incrementally better for each flip, and then it just become a natural extension of that process. We're like, if we just keep doing this, we'll hit 8, or if we just keep doing this, we'll hit 20, and it just makes sense. And it was just that sort of setup. So it wasn't like a click, it wasn't a snap. It was just incrementally trying a ton of stuff, and then one thing worked, and then we improved on that one thing, and eventually it was just so natural. Like you'd see our progression. Like if you mentioned the story, like we went from 2 to 8, 8 to 20. It just makes sense. It just makes sense. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just a clear path. Like you're doing more, like you're making money, like you're doing better. It just makes sense to continue that.
So it's incremental improvements. So does that mean that you track every part of the process? Because I'm thinking if you want to apply incremental improvements, you need to know exactly where those are, right? And maybe that goes back to the reflection that you mentioned earlier on. Like, how would you consider, when do you spot that something works for you, and how do you determine that you want to do more of that, what works?
Yeah, I would just like run these little tests. So it's like a split test, like an A/B test, just on yourself or within your own process. And you won't get like the big data value, the value in the big data. Like a typical split test, like you need 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 to get statistical significance. But like if you can just run it for yourself, and you'll just get an intuitive sense of what works better. Like if you're negotiating and you use one negotiation tactic and it goes well for a couple people, you're like, oh, cool, this is better. Then you can just stick to that moving forward, and you're going to get that benefit moving forward forever. So I would just break it down that way. So yes, incremental improvement, and then just try out some stuff and see how it works. And then the other thing is, so really focus on, like, if other people are doing things a certain way and they're more successful than you, or they're at the level you want to be, like try to copy and emulate that as much as possible.
Yeah, beautiful. Hey, and we got more questions coming in from the audience, and I think this addresses the fact that you're now teaching people, right? You have a process where you're actually coaching and mentoring people to duplicate your process, and to help them, get into the real estate game and walk away with profits, just like you did on your first deal. Now, the question here is, what determines a good real estate mentor? For people that are watching this and they're thinking about it, and they realize that, I don't have the skill set or the knowledge right now to get started, but I do recognize that mentorship and coaching, right, can save me from years and trials of error. So what do you think makes a good real estate mentor, and what would you advise the people that are currently looking for a real estate mentor?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of value in mentorship. I wish I would have had like a flipping mentor when I started. Like it would have saved me a lot of mistakes. Because for me, it was just like getting started. I had no clue what to do, no clue where to start, and just kind of working my way through it. Like I had folks who helped, but not specifically for flipping. So that's what I teach. I think the biggest thing is twofold in terms of if you're actually looking for someone. So I think the first one is the most important. No, they're both important, but the first one is making sure they're actually out there doing it. So like me, this is what I do for full-time living. Like I flip houses, that's it. You need to be careful with some folks who all they do is teach. Like they ride on their coattails. Maybe they did a couple deals a couple years ago, and now they just teach, but they don't do it anymore. So it's just learning from someone who's in the trenches so they can keep tabs on what's working, what's not working, and constantly change and iterate from there. So that's the first thing, just making sure and verifying that that person's actually doing it. It's so easy to just coach. I know a lot of people, especially in real estate, like they just talk and they're speakers and they're on a stage in a suit, but they don't do anything. So it's all fluff. Yeah. So that's the first thing. Second thing, just making sure you vibe or you can connect with them as a person. If it's a mentorship and like fundamental, like you guys don't get along, that's, it's not going to work. So just liking the person. Yeah. Just like a good character fit, getting along. So that's more of a personal feel for it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Guys, I really hope that answers your question, because I agree. Energy, right? Energy is so important. You need to have affinity with your mentor or your coach. But second, I 100% agree. Like Viktor literally said, that you want to work with somebody that does this every day. And I'm such a big advocate for mentors and coaches that are in the field, because how can you personally, and this reminds me of many, many years ago when I was still in university, Viktor, quick side story here.
Please, yeah.
I used to be in business school, right? I have done many, many years of different business education. And I was always the kind of kid that I was so curious and amped up to go into the field and do business and build companies. And then I would ask my teachers, so how many companies have you started? How many companies do you currently run? And you would always see this really strange look and like, kid, you ask too many questions. And it always came down to the fact that they run zero companies. And maybe they were involved with a company many, many years ago. And now they teach theory from the textbooks. Yeah. And many years later, Viktor, and that's why I resonate with what you just said, many, many years later, now when I run multiple companies, I currently have 4 companies and founded many others in my journey, I realize that you want to work with people that are actually applying this every single day, because those are the real life lessons. That's the value. That's the real good stuff. This is what it can actually save you a ton of time and money, just by listening and push and allowing your mentors to be coachable, allowing them to push you in the right direction, avoiding the mistakes that they made on their journey. So I think
that's spot on. Yeah, that theory versus reality,
Yeah.
And especially for real estate, I know a lot of people out there and they sell these massive courses, but they don't do it themselves. They make money selling courses, and then the material in the course, it's just not up to date. Like these are stuff that worked maybe a decade ago, but you try it today and it just doesn't work. And unfortunately, a lot of people, buying these courses just get burned out, and they take it on themselves. They spend the money. They try to get into the material and don't see results because it's an outdated system and it just doesn't work. And then they take it on themselves, like, oh, maybe I didn't work hard enough, or maybe I didn't, apply hard enough or try hard enough. And they just take it on themselves, and then they tally it up as a mental loss, and then that kind of drags on them. So again, mindset. But you just be careful with folks and try to verify as much as possible, like what they're doing and if they're out there doing it, and that sort of level of familiarity.
Beautiful. Hey, and Viktor, now let's get to the exciting stuff. I know that our audience is really amped up about this because we have been announcing it, and I think it's very generous. So you're an active real estate investor, right? You're actively involved in the process, but you did tell me when we first met that you're willing to give away an hour of one-on-one coaching, right? For the folks who want to have the opportunity to talk real estate, to talk mindset, to talk investment. So talk about that. Like, how does this coaching program of yours work? Like, what is the people that are going to get out of this, and why and where should they apply?
Yeah, for sure. So it's 1 hour free. I'm not going to try to do anything. I just want to take that hour to really help you out. And we can talk real estate. We can talk mindset. We can talk entrepreneurship. We can talk, anything they want during that hour. I don't want to be a blocker for their success. So if they want to talk about, whatever it is they need, and then I can help out in terms of that. Yeah. So it's, it's just there to help. So I love to connect with people, love to network with folks, whether it's people who are newer to it, people who are more experienced. I'm sure during that time I can add value in some sort of way in terms of helping them out. But that's pretty much it. And I think the setup is like we have a giveaway, right? So the person who wins the giveaway gets a free hour with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I believe that you also have talked to us a little bit about, I know you created like a booklet, and I know that you probably spent a ton of time into producing that information, compiling that, right? And I believe it's about the after repair value or the actual repair cost. Can you talk about that?
Oh, for sure. So a lot of people always ask me, like, how do I estimate repairs? So that's one of the first things that people say. It's like, how do I get money? How do I get deals? And then like the third thing is like, how do I estimate repairs? And I think the fear with a lot of folks is they don't want to get into a property and then the renovation budget is way too much and then they lose money. So I think that's the biggest fear with a lot of people. So with that, I've put together a guide. It's like 7 pages and it breaks down like every repair line by line and what it's going to cost. And it's based on my experiences, based on what I'm doing. I just put everything that was in my head onto a piece of paper in terms of estimating repairs. So it's like 7 pages, breaks it down, super simple, like what's the cost per square foot and everything. So it's helpful. So like if it says roof and it says, this is how much it costs for a roof, or flooring, it just breaks everything down just so it's more applicable. I know when I started, I had like no clue what anything cost. It was just like, how much is yeah, exactly. Like, how much does this cost? How much does that cost? And then you talk to different contractors, you talk to different people, like their prices were all over the place. Like sometimes a contractor would try to take advantage of me or try to take advantage of you as a new real estate investor. So they'd hike up their prices. And like, if you didn't know, like you would just give them that much money. So it's just a guide. It's a free gift from me. Hopefully it's helpful.
How do we get our hands? Because I think that's tremendous value, guys, for people who are thinking of real estate or are currently in the real estate space. How do we get our hands on that?
So I can link it. I can send it to you, Rob, if you want to share it with everyone, or I can post it. We'll figure that out, but I have it ready to go. So whenever we can figure out the specifics, but I can share that with everyone for sure.
Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, where our team is gonna make those arrangements, guys. We will make sure that you will get your hands on that book. And I wanna, as we come to a close, Victor, I know that your time is very precious, and we're very, very grateful. This is an epic interview, so I really appreciate your time here today. But I want to close out with one more question, and so we want to know, what is the single biggest lesson that you have learned up to this point? I know that you're at the beginning. I know that you're just getting started, right? You have a bright future ahead of you in the real estate space. But what is the biggest single lesson up to this point that you learned by flipping real estate?
Biggest lesson? No, I think the biggest thing is it's all in your head, like mindset, like what you teach for sure, Rob. Like it's all mind. It's all a mind game. Like it doesn't. It's all however you want to take it. Like when people see like, how do I raise money? Like you can see that as a problem, or you can see that as an opportunity. You can see it as, oh, I want to invest in real estate. Other people want to invest in real estate. As soon as I figure out this thing, how do I raise money, or how do I get money for deals? I'll be ahead of everybody else, and I'll be on my way to success. And then eventually you get to a point where it's like, if I just keep solving problems and solving them consistently and scalably, sustainably, you're that much closer to the goal line. So like, if I just keep solving problems, I'll eventually get there. And all of that just evolves from like a solid mindset. So it's all in your head. There's nothing else. Like goals only exist in your head. It's all mind. It's all cerebral. There's nothing else. It's always like how you can frame it. Like two people can look at the same situation and have totally different perspectives. Like one person can look at a situation like, oh, this is done. This is screwed. I'm not even going to bother with it. And then a different person can have like, oh, this is great. This is fantastic. I couldn't be happier that this thing happened. So I just want to take it back to what you teach, Rob. It's just all mindset.
So good. It's phenomenal, guys. And I want to, like, Victor here is a very accomplished man, right? At his age and in his journey, right? In such a short period of time. Because mindset, as he just addressed, mindset is probably 80% of the opportunity. Like you can get into any opportunity, but if you currently have limiting beliefs, or if you have some mental blocks, or maybe even some disbeliefs about your own abilities, then you're going to make this very hard on yourself. So that would be a great place to start. But I absolutely identify with the thing that if you can work on believing in yourself and going in and know that you have a lot of value to bring to the table, right? Then you have this tremendous journey ahead of you. And surround yourself with great people like Viktor and his network, right? I also encourage you guys to connect with Viktor. He has a tremendous, I don't know if we can call it the School of Greatness or the School of Real Estate, but I know you have a tremendous network. How do people follow you, Viktor? Like what are your platforms? Like how do people connect with you?
Yeah, so the best is Facebook. So if you just look up my name, Viktor Jiracek, ViktorJiracek, and I'm sure it's in the show notes and everything.
Yeah.
In terms of the advertisements. Yeah, so just look me up on Facebook. You'll find me for sure. It's a very unique name, so you don't have to worry about that. So just find me, connect. Like if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm happy to help. If you have any comments, like anything, just let me know. But yeah, just Facebook is the best way to reach me.
Beautiful. Guys, there you have it. I really appreciate every one of you for tuning in and participating in the show. We got some phenomenal questions answered today. I hope this was valuable. We're certainly grateful for Viktor. Viktor, I hope to see you again. We're going to follow your journey, right? From 8 to 20 flips and from 20 to 50. We're here to support you and cheer you on. So we're going to be keeping close tabs on what is happening on your side. And can you close us out with one more golden tip for the audiences, thinking about getting into the real estate space? Close us out, Viktor.
Oh, absolutely. So, again, I appreciate you having me on, by the way. It's been a lot of fun. So I'm open to do it again if you're open to it.
Absolutely.
One golden tip, I think, I think the biggest thing is just get started. Like if you can take even the smallest action step, the smallest baby step in the right direction, like even if you do a little baby step a day, in a year, you'll have made, 365 baby steps. So you're all the way. You'll be surprised how far you can make it if you just break it up a little bit. And don't even worry about trying to be perfect about it. Like, I'm not perfect. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm calling a seller. I don't know what to say. Like, don't worry about that. Like, you'll eventually figure that out. You can eventually break that down into what works and what doesn't work. I like the metaphor of a rocket ship. So like when a rocket ship goes to the moon, I think 90% of the time it's off track. 90% of the time it's on the wrong course, but it keeps correcting and eventually it hits the moon or gets to the moon. So I like that perspective. Like even if you feel like you're failing, but you're moving forward, then like you're still making progress.
Wow, beautiful. There you have it, guys. Be like a rocket ship. Be like Viktor's rocket ship.
Be like Viktor's rocket ship, exactly.
Keep taking action and course correct along the way, and you'll hit success. Viktor, I appreciate your time. You have been a phenomenal guest on the show. We certainly want to have you back at one point to talk about the progress in the meantime. But for now, we're gonna make sure that people get the hands on that book, and we're gonna raffle that one-on-one hour of coaching with you. So guys, be prepared for that. We're gonna put you in touch. And as always, Viktor, I appreciate you. Wish you lots of success in this journey, and I hope to see you again and talk to you very soon again.
Likewise, appreciate it. Till next time.
All right, guys. Good night and see you later.